Welcome to dbDOS Pro 6. This is the Wizard Walkthru using the dbDOS Pro 6 Configuration Manager. As you've seen maybe in the overview video, there's a lot to dbDOS to try to get DOS programs up and running quickly and easily for you. And what the Configuration Manager allows us to do is build configurations pretty quickly and to get the most out of our DOS applications. So what we're going to do is we're going to walk through building a new configuration using the Wizard interface, and I think you'll enjoy it. So the first thing we want to do once we bring up the Configuration Manager is to go ahead and click on the New Config. When you click on the New Config, the most important thing to do is name your configuration. This one I'm going to say dbDOS Pro 6 Example. And I highly recommend that when you put in a description, you put in a really good description, because there are so many times when I look for a configuration I've created and I can't find it because I didn't put a good description in to tell me what the configuration was representing. So this one is a simple wizard video. And I know that's not real long, but it is descriptive. Now, once you do that, once you put in the configuration name and the description, you can go to the Advanced, or you can go Next, Cancel. Now, you're watching the Wizard video, so you click the Help on inside of the Wizard. So, I'm going to go ahead and hit the Next button. Probably one of the most challenging parts of dbDOS is to set up what's called a mounted drive. There's a lot to setting up drives on dbDOS, but just try to keep in mind that anywhere you put your code and your applications and your structures and your data, all of that's going to be located under a directory, and you want to point to where that directory is located. So for me, I want to go ahead and create a mounted drive. This brings up an Add Path to Mount dialog. Notice there's a little folder over to the side. If I click on that, I can come into Computer, I can go to the C prompt, and I know that my dbase is located in dbase 5 en. So when I click on that en and I hit OK, this is basically telling me that the C prompt, or my base directory, is going to be the contents of en. Now, if I go back in, I might go back to Computer, and I go back to the C drive, and I go back to dbase. I may sometimes say, you know what, I really want dbase 5 to be the directory structure and have en underneath of it and all of the subdirectories underneath that, because I want to be able to control things differently. So if I did this, that would make dbase the C prompt, and then everything underneath there would be en and pdf. So it's important to understand what this is representing. But for this one, I'm going to go ahead and hit the en, and I'm going to say OK. We're going to go ahead and make this the default because it's the C drive, and we'll say OK. Notice when it puts it in here that it is the default drive. It's pointing to C drive, and the path that it's pointing to is c:\dbase5/en. I could go in and add additional drives if I wanted to. So if I come in here and click the Create Mounted Drive, I can go ahead and hit the folder again. This time I might want to open up my network. So I click on my network, and I might go ahead and say I want my cloud, and then inside my cloud I may say that I want to go to mros db5, and I hit OK. Notice that it puts in the network structure for it, and then I can pick whichever drive I may so desire. So let's make that U, and I'm going to go ahead and hit the OK button. Notice up here that it brings in here and it says U, and then it says the drive. Now, if you make a mistake or you want to delete something, just come into here, click on this, and then click on the Delete Mounted Drive, and it'll go ahead and get rid of that. For this one, I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that drive. Now, once you've actually set up your mount directory, life is pretty good. It's almost done, because as you can see, you're going to create a configuration with no executable. So you're seeing a C:\= sign. So let's go ahead and just leave that for this particular incident that we want to do. I can go ahead and hit the next key. At any time, if I want to go back, I can just click the back key, and you'll notice it brings me back, and I can adjust, make modifications if so desired. I'm going to go ahead and hit the next key though, Regional Settings. Now, I'm in the US, so I'm going to go ahead and pick the 437 for the code page, and in my keyboard I'm going to say US 103. There are other options inside of here depending on where you're located in the world, and you can check those and make sure that you're running under the proper ones. Once you have that selected and you're ready to go, hit the next key. Printing is going to default to enhanced printing, and we recommend that people start with that. If you haven't set up printing before, we recommend that you set up with enhanced printing. That's going to give you the quickest, easiest way to print most things out, plus it gives you the ability to save to PDF. We also have some legacy structures out there. We have the Drawl, which basically bypasses the print structure and just puts the raw code right into your printer. We have a legacy interpreted print, which kind of brings it up into an editor so you can modify it a little bit. We have the enhanced, which is kind of a better interpreted, and we have a direct, which is a better raw. And so each one of these have their own characteristics. What we really want to make sure of is that we give you the capability that you can get the printouts to work as closely as you can to what you had back in the mid-80s or in the early 90s, and so we work around that. So I'd recommend using the enhanced printing option. Now, if you want to set a default printer so you don't see that print dialog come up, you can do so. You can come in here and say, this one, I want to use a specific one, and I can come in and pick one that I want. I don't want to do that right now. I'm just going to leave it as that. We have a timeout, and we can also set the default for the interpreted print, or we can come in here to save PDF. And if I come in here to save PDF, I can go ahead and put a directory in here. If I do that, it won't ask me for a directory, and I can also send it to the printer. So I could either send the PDF to a specific directory, or I can send it to a specific directory and print out the PDF. And then I can set up what the margins are and what the widths and all that kind of stuff is. So once you've gone ahead and created your printer, you want to go to the next. Now we've added a new feature for new configurations, which is called Direct Drawl. And the reason why we added it is because it's the fastest way to get the system to run. And it draws the screens incredibly quick. There is a limitation though. It keeps you in the default resolution of 800 by 600. If you want to use a bigger screen like 1024 by 768, you may want to use Overlay or OpenGL to get that. Also, we also have in full screen mode. Now, we highly recommend you don't start in full screen mode. Full screen mode is temperamental with Windows and things like that, so we'd recommend that you don't do that. Only use that on special occasions, or if you talk to people at dbase and they say, and give you all the background about why there are problems with using full screen structures. It is a problem, I'll put it that way. And then if you don't want to use Direct Drawl, you want to have that capability, you can put it on OpenGL or Overlay, and then you can set your resolution to whatever size you want. Now, Direct Drawl is about 15% faster though, so if you want the fastest interface possible, Direct Drawl is it. If you want the most configuration, probably Overlay is the one that you'd want. I'm going to go ahead and pick Overlay, and I'm going to hit Next. And then I'm going to go ahead and create a desktop shortcut. We'll hit Next. I could go out and test the problem, but I probably won't because it's just as easy to run it. And I'll hit Finished. And right here we go. We have our new example right there that we just created just a few seconds ago. So this is our dbDOS Pro 6 example. So that kind of gives us an understanding of how to do that. Now, when I double click this, what this is going to do is this is going to go ahead and kick off dbDOS, and it brings us to a C prompt. Notice that the shortcut on the desktop shows C:* greater than sign. This is basically showing the C:* greater than sign. And if I come in here and do a dir, I can do that, and it'll give me the dir. There's all kinds of things I can do from that standpoint. I can go in, and if I wanted to implement 4DOS, I can go in and add 4DOS into here, and then I could do help. And you can see all different kinds of additional feature functionality capability that's available to you. Now, from that standpoint, I may want to exit out of here. And then I may want to come back into that configuration again, and I hit the Edit key. Notice it brings us back up into the wizard, and I can just hit Next. And this time, let's say I want to go ahead and add an executable to this. So let's go ahead and click the little house button down here. And you'll notice that we have all of our executables that we could go ahead and run. I want to go ahead and run dbInfo. So I'm going to say OK. Notice when I put something inside of this automatically launched program, it changes this to a .exe. So that tells us visually that we're going to be changing from a C colon greater than sign to an executable running. So it's that visual structure for you. I want to hit next, next. I don't want to change anything here. I do want to change my size, so I'm going to come into here and I'm going to change this to 1024 by 768, and I'm going to go ahead and hit the next, the finish button. Now it brings me back. Let's go ahead and run it again. Notice that my shortcut changed from that C colon greater than sign to now a .exe. But I can also run it from right inside the configuration manager, which I'm going to do. When I kick that off, it goes ahead and does the splash screen for us. It's going to bring this into here, and notice it automatically kicked off the actual DB info, and we can scroll through this. We can hit the F4 for the next page, and we can go back and forth and do all of those things which you would expect to do. Hit the escape key. Notice it's much bigger now, and then if I want to, I can just say exit, and it'll go ahead and bring it out. Now again, if I want to modify it, just click on the edit, come in. This time I'm going to change my display to direct drawl. I'm going to go ahead and hit next, next, finished. And this time I'm going to run it again. We'll run it again here and see what happens. So this is kicking off. There's the new screen, and automatically it brings it back into the 800 by 600. But remember, 800 by 600, the reason for that is because it's the fastest display possible. So if I come in here and 4, and you can go around the horn, as they say, inside of here. So that kind of gives you an idea of what you can do. Now notice when I exit, it goes ahead and exits. Now if I run this again, this time I'm going to hit the little red arrow button at the top of the window, and I'll show you what the difference is. Now a couple of things I want to make highlight of really quickly is that notice that the dbDOS Pro 6 example, so you know exactly which configuration you're running. Notice the structure right there. And then if I click the little red arrow button, notice I get an error that basically comes up and says, are you sure you want to close this down? There may be some files open that you haven't closed. Are you sure you want to? And if you say yes, it'll go ahead and close it. If you say no, it just leaves it there. So that gives you a good overview of how to use the wizard inside of dbDOS Pro 6 Configuration Manager. Thanks a lot for listening, and thanks for supporting dbDOS. Have a good one. Bye-bye.